Jayden Campbell, not found guilty, doesn't have a case to answer for that hit on Russell. What did we think of that?
I was a little surprised by it, to be honest. I know it was an accident, but the damage alone would suggest to me that he should have been charged. Sometimes this stuff's unavoidable, but we charge blokes for careless high tackles. To me, that's a little bit careless. So at the very least, I think he should have been charged.
And the point he was making, if it was somebody like Latrell Mitchell, rather than Jayden Campbell, who is a bit of a clean skin, and Latrell's a polarising figure, then the outrage would be much higher, which I tend to agree.
Yeah, probably. And that's the issue. Coast player, Kenty, right? They're a bit out of sight, out of mind as well, I would say.
And Justin Holbrook addressed that after the game the other day. He said, we're not one of the big clubs. Maybe in this instance it's probably saved him. But the fact is, he clearly thought it cost him 2 points as well, given some of the officiating decisions. But it's a tricky one because that...
I see it different. From a player's perspective, I'm looking at my fullback here. He chases as hard as he possibly can. Now, Russell does a great job. He gets down low and he dives a fair way out from the try line. Jayden dives in with his hands. He has to get his knees down to brace the impact. He tries to knock the ball out. He tries to save a try against the opposition, and he nearly does it.
Bro, if he hits him with his knees first...
But what's he supposed to do here?
How does he...
Try to avoid it. The only way to avoid this, and Emmersley said it, accidental in an attempt to stop a try. Right. The only way to stop this is to not even try and attempt to tackle him.
Well, if you're not in position to make a legal tackle, that doesn't allow you to make an illegal tackle.
So he should just sit back and not try and stop it.
Well, I'll say this, boys. To your point, after the Drew Hutchinson similar injury, right, last year, the Parramatta coaching staff, such was that they saw the damage that caused, they advised their players, boys, let's not go down that path because we know the impact. So in answer to your question, yes.
This is totally different.
But the Eels were willing to go. They could see the damage it caused. They lost Dylan Brown, and they spoke to their players that let's simply... There's nothing you can do, boys. We don't want to put people in hospital with punctured lungs.
I understand that, and I don't disagree, but this is totally different. Brown doesn't even try and make a tackle. He goes straight in with the knees. That's a different incident. So does Campbell get the same punishment as Brown? Is that what we're suggesting? Just because the injury's the same?
Brown got 4 weeks. Yeah. You don't think Campbell could have got a couple? He punctured his lungs and broke his ribs.
I understand that.
Just one week of fine. Yeah. Just something to say, this is not acceptable.
Because under the way the judiciary works now, the precedent has now been set. So the next time there's an incident similar to this, and there'll be always slight
Well, I would say
variations.
That you can't use a precedent in the judiciary unless it's been charged.
That's true.
So this won't be a precedent because
I don't disagree
this
with
hasn't
that.
been
I'm just
charged.
defending the player because if Jayden doesn't try and attempt this tackle here, right, his players would be filthy at him. He'd be copying it from the fans. He's just trying to stop a try, and he's not. There's no intent there. He's not trying to hurt him.
Braith,
that doesn't matter,
Braith,
it doesn't matter.
Braith, junior footy starts in a couple of weeks. And you know for a fact, young kids, they start to replicate their heroes, try saving attempts.
So what are you going to tell the young kid here?
He's got to get across earlier, is what he's got to do.
He's sprinted from the post.
He was in bad position. He clearly, if he didn't get there early enough...
Accidents happen in footy. It's a tough game. Accidents happen.
Yeah, but we accept that, Braith, but guys still get charged over accidents. Guys get charged for accidental head-eye shots all the time.
I will say this, guys. I know that Jayden Campbell has reached out to Sean Russell in the interim. Sean has replied and said, look, I understand, it's part of footy. So clearly there's a mentality from the footy players that they know they're going to cop an injury.
I feel for Russell because he had a great start of the season. He's out injured. No one wants to see injuries. I'm just looking at it from the player's perspective. Head of football, Graham Ennersley, explained the NRL's decision not to charge Jayden Campbell.
The review committee believes there was forceful contact, obviously. However, they did not deem the actions of Jayden Campbell to be careless. They did not believe Campbell dangerously led with his knees. They felt their review showed Campbell lowering his body and leading with his arm in a genuine attempt to stop the try from being scored. Campbell's arm does make contact with the ball before it reaches the line. However, his knees make simultaneous contact with Russell, which the match review committee deemed as accidental in an attempt to stop the try.
There he is, Graham Ennersley, explaining why.
And that makes sense.
It does make sense.
That makes sense. But the fact is, if you're not in position to make a legal tackle, you can't make an illegal one. And he hit him with his knees in his ribs, broke his ribs, punctured a lung. Look, There's a lot, I know, I get it. There's a lot of ex-players sitting there now saying, game's getting soft, we can't allow this stuff. But the charges are there for this. Yeah. The charges are just there.
But it shows how tough their job is too, but... Yeah. Like, we got difference of opinion right here. They've got to rule on this adjudicate on this every game.
The NRL have rubbed out different parts of the game that cause lesser injuries than that. Shoulder charges, fighting, gone from the game. We have a player here who's gone for the majority of the season due to a punctured lung and ribs and whatnot. That the game can make a decision on whether they want it to be part of the game or not.
All right, it's contentious, and I think another one that's contentious at the moment is the concussion and the new concussion rule with the independent doctor in the bunker. What do we think of this?
Well, look, it's early, right? So they're going to have teething problems. We always do with things like this when they first come in. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think having an independent doctor in the bunker is not about... You can't have an independent doctor at every ground. It's too expensive, and you'd have to have a pool of doctors to be able to do that. So to have one in the bunker, I think it's a good idea, and I think eventually they'll work it out, right? At the moment, they're just feeling their way with it. It's only the first week. Give it a few weeks. We're still in the same issues. Then we've got a problem.
Look, I've spoken to Andrew, as have you guys, and he did admit that there needs to be a little bit of massaging done as far as the speed goes to diagnose these, because we saw incidents over the weekend where players were playing 3, 4, up to 10 minutes with Braden Burns before the doctor actually got involved and said, no, you've got to get him off. So certainly that has to be fixed. But this is all about the welfare of the player. And we need to understand that. And I know a couple of people have been critical of it already, but the players so far are in support of it.
Yep.
From what we've seen, obviously not every player's been canvassed, but from what we've seen, the players who have spoken publicly, they're all in support of it because it's only there to help their welfare.
Yeah, I spoke to Dale Finucane today, who's been in the game for over a decade, who's seen it all, different transitions through the game on how they police concussion. And I use those players as barometers to assess whether it is a good fix for the game. And someone like Dale gives a fair and honest opinion. And absolutely what Kenny says, he says it's the right direction for the game.
I'll give you a hidden benefit of it too. It's going to stop players milking. Yeah. Players go in, collapse out of a tackle, look what's happened to me, sir, and lay on the ground trying to milk a penalty. If he lays there too long, the doctor's got to say, mate, get him off.
Do the NRL not trust the clubs?
Of course they don't trust the clubs. Look, Reedy wrote the column over the summer where the 16 coaches, was it 16 coaches or was it more?
7. More. That was 70-odd%.
70-odd% of the coaches said the rule was being rorted. The interchain rule was being rorted. We all knew that. Coaches were faking head injuries to get free replacements, and then other players who were a 6 or a 7 or a 9 or whatever, who were important and they needed to stay out there, they were trying to say, that's actually a shoulder injury, or it was a leg injury or whatever. That's why he was slow to his feet. It's being rorted. And so the coaches have surrendered the right to be in control of their own destiny because the coaches were the ones rorting the rule. And privately, the doctors went to the NRL and said, we're sick of being stuck in the middle here because we've got the coach up there saying, mate, he's okay, keep him on the field, he's not concussed. And I can clearly see he's concussed and we need to get him off. So the coaches, they've got no one else to blame but themselves because they do what they always do. They try and bend it to their own advantage.